publicity and branding. The direct goal of these messages is to stimulate the wishes of potential clients and to form positive associations in relation to the promoted product or company, which is achieved through the use of more or less subtle psychological manipulation methods. Companies should not be limited to offering quality goods or services. They need to inform the consumers about their benefits. So to do this, businesses need to use the mass promotion tools of advertising, sales promotion, and public relations. We can define advertising as any form of impersonation and promotion of ideas, goods, or services through mass media, such as newspapers, magazines, radio, television, and internet. Many organizations use advertising to convey to a specific audience messages about their products and services, or their behavior in order to determine a response from the public. The answer may be of a perceptual nature. The consumer makes certain views on the product, but they can be changed by the advertisement. Or they can be of a behavioral nature. The consumer buys the product or increases the quantity purchased. Advertising is a good way to inform and persuade in order to create preferences of a particular product or to motivate consumers to consume a particular product. Here are some types of advertising. Faced with a growing environment and growing competition, businesses have diversified and multiplied their forms of advertising. These can be grouped according to a number of validated practice criteria as follows. Depending on the goal of your advertising message. Product advertising, which highlights its characteristics and its utility in consumption. Brand advertising, or institutional, business-focused advertising. Depending on the geographical spread of the message, advertising may be local, regional, national, and international. After the recipient of the advertising messages, advertising for end users or advertising for intermediaries. By the type of broadcast messages, advertising may be factual or of an emotional nature. Depending on the intended effect, advertising may be attributed to either a direct action with immediate effect or a delayed action with effects that occur over time. After the sponsor, the advertising differs according to the financing agent, which can be the manufacturer, its intermediary, or other economic agents. Advertising objectives can be classified by purpose. Information advertising is used when launching a new product category. The objective is to create a primary demand. Convincing advertising is becoming more and more important as competition intensifies. The objective of the firm is to create a selective demand. Publicity of conviction has partially transformed into comparative advertising, whereby a firm directly or indirectly compares the product with one or more products of other firms. Reminders advertising is important for products that reached the maturity stage because it keeps the consumer's interest in the product. Costly commercials broadcast, for example, Coca-Cola on television, are meant to remind people of its existence, not just to inform or convince them. Once the advertising goals have been determined, the advertising budget for each product is set. The role of advertising is to create demand for a particular product, and the company wants to spend as much as necessary to achieve planned sales. Specific factors for budgeting. The life cycle of a product. New products require a more consistent advertising budget to inform consumers of their existence and to get them to try them. Existing brands usually require lower budgets and allocations are made as a percentage of the sales value. Market share. Typically, brands with higher market shares require higher advertising costs than lower-end brands. These costs can be calculated as a percentage of the sales value. Creating the market. or gaining a market share to the detriment of competitors involves higher advertising spending than maintaining the current quota. Competition. In a market with many competitors that are investing quite a bit in advertising, a brand must be promoted more strongly to be noticed in the complexity of the market. Frequency of advertising actions if the branding message needs to be delivered multiple times to the consumers. The advertising budget needs to be higher. Differentiations of the product. A brand that resembles other brands in the same class of products requires higher advertising spending to distinguish it from other brands. When the product greatly differs from those of competitors, advertising can be used to highlight those differences. So, elaborating the message. Creative messages can be more important to the success of your advertising campaign than the amount of money you spend. Regardless of the allocated budget, this activity can be successful with the impact of messages. The message is the underlying idea of communication. Specialists must conceive the message so that it is received by the public. Advertisements have three characteristics. It must be clear, present the benefits that make the product more desirable or more exciting for consumers. It must be distinct, communicating to consumers what makes the product better than the competitor's brand or the competing brand. And it must be credible, because many consumers question the truthfulness of advertising in general. The message execution addresses the impact of the message. The presentation of the message can be done by respecting several styles of execution, such as lifestyle, fantasy, image, music, symbol character, technical experience, scientific evidence, and testimonies. Positive messages that evoke happiness, sense of accomplishment, or joy tend to be more effective than negative messages. Also, the creator of the creative message must use memorable and appealing words. Finally, the format of the ad influences both its impact and its cost. A single change in the ad design can have a decisive influence on its effect. Illustration is the first thing that the reader notices, and therefore it must be sufficiently expressive to attract his or her attention. The title must actually make people read the commercial. It must be simple and compelling. Unfortunately, ads that are not noticeable will not even get the performance mentioned above.